Three, two, one, go. I'm Pat.
Hey, I'm Jeffrey.
Decalcifying the host. Yeah. So that's an original.
Yeah.
I think we had gone through most of the Sim scrolls, or at least the ones that I remember.
Well, there's more, but a lot of these were on packs that I don't think that you or I ever played. Um,
If there's anything through Sims 3 or Sims 4, I definitely didn't play it, man, because I didn't get any of the DLC for either of those.
well, I don't know. I don't know how far that goes, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
there were a lot of those that I didn't recognize at that point, and like I said, I accidentally closed the window anyway. So, um, it's out there.
Sure.
I could find it again, but you
It's
know,
all right. I like the original one.
effort.
Yeah, a little bit of effort. It'll probably take us less time to actually come up with our own
We'll
now.
figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
This one is highly based on reality, so
Yeah. No, I did spend all day on the couch today.
doing what?
Oh, like I said, my stomach's a little upset, so I was just watching TV. So, yeah.
Did that make it better?
No,
Huh.
it's just time. You
Huh.
gotta murder time off, man. So,
Yeah, I do.
yeah,
I do.
I think I maybe took like maybe a half-hour nap. So, in there. I don't really sleep on the couch that much.
It's not good for your back.
Oh, sleeping on my bed's not necessarily good for my back anymore either. Oh well.
Well, to be fair, that's what I was doing when I missed your text. So
Oh, napping.
yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Mm.
So obviously, I'm not going to chastise you for snoozing, Patrick. But then again,
Yeah.
I often snooze during the day. So
Right. No, my daughter's gone completely nocturnal. I think she got up at 3 today. Yeah.
sounds about right.
Yeah, she's kind of getting it.
between you and her mother.
Well,
you
no,
know,
she's definitely half vampire. But,
Yeah.
like, the other thing is, it's like, she kind of reminded of me when I was maybe a little bit older, just because, she's a girl and I go through puberty a little bit faster. But, like, before I started working, like the 2 summers before that, I was a sloth. I mean, I mean, I would get up at 3. I'd be starving, so I'd eat something right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd go dink around on the computer or, whatever. I'd find something to do, but I was at least sleeping about a good 10, 12 hours a day. And I'd stay up late at night.
Uh-huh.
This is before YouTube, so it was all doom. You know, so
Amongst other things.
yeah,
I
amongst
mean,
other things.
that's not fair because I mean, yeah, there was a lot of things that I know you and I were into that like when you and I can sit there and recite like the fucking Nick at Night schedule and shit like that. I know
There was
that we
some of
both.
that.
I mean, we were the early adopters into the Cartoon Network and things like that. So I know there's shit that like if I'm gonna sit there and say, "Hey Patrick, do you remember watching Toonheads?" You're gonna say yes.
I remember Toonheads.
You
I
know,
remember watching Toonami too at night.
I mean,
So
the
yeah,
stuff that
I remember Toonheads.
well, that's what I'm saying is that was like late night programming, and if you know it, you were up.
Yeah, that's when you used to get the old Fritz Freeling and
Bob Clampett and all
Bob
the rest of
Clampett.
it.
Yeah,
Chuck Jones.
Chuck Jones. Yeah,
The
you get all
luminaries
the
of
fucking
the.
the droopy cartoons on that night.
Oh yeah,
Toonheads.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, but I remember going through like the entire Nick at Night lineup. Like I could still recite their catch song of "My Three Sons" on there, and then I mean, and they would rotate. There was so much good like back old school television from the 50s and 60s that they would cough up a new show just to see if it would stick every now and then. I mean, not a new show, but like
Something from the classic lineup.
something from the TCM library. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it'd be like I remember when they first started viewing the old the Twilight Zones. Holy shit, I was hooked on those. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that was great, and that's like 50s, late 50s, early 60s. So
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it was. Yeah, I mean, there was some good TV on back then. So I guess there still is now, but
There's plenty out there, but
yeah, there's plenty out there.
God knows you and I aren't gonna find it.
Not right now, no. So I can't think of anything that's. I mean, there's a couple shows that, like, my brother's told me, you can go back and watch this. And I was like, all right, which streaming service is it on? It's
Right.
on Paramount. Okay, well, I'm not going to watch it. So, sorry, don't have it.
That's the one I do have right now,
Oh,
actually.
okay. So, apparently, I'm supposed to go watch that Tulsa King thing. So,
I don't even know what that is.
it's Sylvester Stallone. So, he did like a six episode series, or maybe it's more, I don't know. But he says it's really good. It's kind of a good comeback kind of thing.
Streaming
So,
on what? Well, he didn't leave.
well, no, I know, but there's like a lot of these guys who are coming back and doing, streaming things now. Like Arnold just did a whole big one for Netflix. So that I don't know anything about because I didn't turn it back on.
Is this Tulsa King? Is that on Netflix too, or what is it on?
It's not. I think it's on Paramount. So
Oh, I didn't.
yeah, okay, fine. Yeah,
I didn't even notice. It
I
didn't.
might be wrong. It might be on HBO or some shit.
No,
I
it
don't
could be.
know.
I don't know. It's not my fault. Well, I mean, it's not. It could be there. I just didn't notice
Yeah, okay.
because, frankly, all I'm using it for right now is I stream Bellator fights while I'm working out. So,
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, that's, and I will run out of those eventually, and
Okay.
well, I'll swap over
Maybe you'll have something else to watch.
because Star Trek Picard is over,
Right.
so I don't need to keep it for that.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I've got a little bit more free time this summer, so I might get back into some. We'll see.
You might or you might not.
I don't know. I got so much stuff on my YouTube TV scraped off there now. Since it's been running for like 2 months, just scraping the shit off there that I wanted to watch. So I don't even know what I clicked on, man. I'm gonna have to go back and look.
Yeah, that'll be exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It'd be like the Amazon loot crate. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, but no, we'll see.
Yeah, fair enough. I was getting, I don't know. I don't. My biggest connection to television is via work.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And so my latest project that I just finished was, um, what the fuck is that show called? It's Mysteries Decoded Area 51.
Oh, awesome. Did
Yeah.
they talk all about the UFO? Well, that would have been taped like what, last fall. So
Well, this is in conjunction. So this is they're seeing uh if the Storm Area 51 movement was responsible for the recent.
Getting Naruto run into there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's like, there's like 30,000 people and or whatever. And
And that one hotel there, the motel, got absolutely swamped with people to the point where I think they just closed and they said, "Fuck off, just get off our property" or something. I can't remember
what are they
what
going
it was.
to do? I mean, truth be told, I mean, if you're going to do that, just stay in Las Vegas for one day and then go out
Yeah,
there.
drive out
Just,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
But
not
yeah,
that many
that's
landmines.
they'll fuck you up if you go out there, man.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Yeah. So
I know there's not a ton of water out there, but there's enough to run like fucking riot hoses and
they'll just shoot you. They got the signs up there, so he shoots you.
they'll ask you to leave first.
Right, they'll ask you once with a bullet, right
Well,
next to your ear.
they're not showing up like good cop first. Like they're coming out there with the fucking um with the weapons in hand.
Yeah, they don't even have zip ties, so they bring body bags.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like leave,
leave.
and if you say like, no, my taxes pay for this place, I'm
Bang.
staying.
Bang, 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 bang.
No, I will say this. I will say this about the show. I was actually impressed with this. So um the person that's doing the show, right, like the main driver of it was like she was a Navy person, and so they were talking about that. This was one perspective I actually appreciated, was that, like, they were having this discussion about, this really short, dorky, fucking, conspiracy UFO journalist, he called himself. Um,
There's quite a few of those.
yeah, there's a lot of, like, donuts and homosexuality in that guy's
Got it.
in that guy's General Arsenal personality. And he's sitting there talking about, blah blah blah. It's like, don't you think it's a little extreme that they chase these people out like that at gunpoint and whatnot? And to her credit, like, for a show like this, I was surprised that they actually, like, let her take, like, a pro-military stance. She's like, no, you got no business out there.
Yeah, it doesn't belong to you.
It's like, this is a national security thing.
Right, right.
We don't belong here.
Yeah,
It's like, we can stop it at, like, looking at this gate, and that's as far as we're gonna go.
yeah.
And it's that what they're doing is right. I was like, wow, I can't believe a show actually took this perspective. I'm impressed.
Well, I mean, all those guys who are doing the Tic Tac videos and stuff like that. Because there's like two Navy pilots who've done fucking dozens of interviews.
Yes.
They're pretty respectful about that too.
Yes.
So I think I've seen most of those guys.
And they did discuss the popular footage on those videos and stuff like that. I mean, there is a little bit more. I'd really dismiss these. I was like, well, this is actually a little bit more interesting. It's like, obviously I can't,
Yeah.
testify to what this is, what the situation is. Like,
Right.
okay, you guys have confirmation of this on these different places. All right, well, that's interesting, but
Yeah, but what is it? So um
the fuck would I know?
Yeah,
Look, if they don't know, I don't know.
exactly, and I'm kind of in the same boat, man. It's just like there was a couple that I did see that got debunked, and they were for like really obvious reasons. And once you saw that, it was kind of like, why? How the fuck did you guys miss? Oh wait, you didn't miss this. This makes good TV. Got it.
I forget, what is the
There's so like of the ones that I've seen, there's a few where it's like, that's really neat, and it's not supposed to be able to do that. And there's like the one on the East Coast where the guy's flipping through the different types of like IR setting or infrared settings and stuff like that on the camera, and actually checking all the equipment and doing what he's supposed to do. Well, that one's pretty cool. So, but then there's other ones where it says, well, watch it just jump all the way over here, and you can see in the corner where the guy just hit the zoom button. So, and it didn't lock on it, so it zoomed right past it. So,
Right.
it's like, okay, that doesn't mean it went fast. So, I mean, come on, man. I saw that. And it's just like, well, what's all this stuff on the side? It's just military shit. Don't worry about that. It's like, well, actually, no, that's what the camera's actually doing. That's this diagnostic readout. That'd probably be one of the first things you check, but oh, never mind. This makes for good TV. Got it. And that's why the next time I saw it, it was cropped. And it was like, cool. But yeah, no, apparently there are some that are just like, okay, that's fucking weird. So, and who knows, man? Who knows?
I have no idea. I mean, there is stuff where they're saying we were tracking it on the ground and as well, and we actually sent things up because we were tracking it on the ground, and we saw this, and like, all right, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Apparently that happens out of like Naval Air Station in Norfolk a lot. So out there, and so the guys are just like, okay, let's go again. So there's one guy who says, yeah, we see them all the time. So no fucking clue what they are. They're always out there though. So
Well, their working theory is they're not even they're saying that this is not alien in origin. That was like, this is something that we built.
oh yeah,
Yeah, now of course they're saying it's because it was reverse engineered from alien technology and Area 51. Now there was one guy who said, he's like, guys, if it was something like this here, it's not there anymore. It's like they move this. If this it's like, I've been on sites where there's stuff that you guys aren't supposed to know about. They move it.
yeah, yeah.
So if you think it's just sitting out here,
Right, yeah. No matter how fast you run. So, I don't know, man. So that the guy who came out with that thing a couple weeks ago said that we had 12 craft bodies and stuff. And then, like, Schellenberger came out and was actually wrote a story on him that was really supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I watched. So one of the guys that I watch is Michael Shermer. He's a super skeptic guy he doesn't believe in shit. You know, but he'll go through.
Like, like it's a skeptic or a nihilist.
Yes. I don't think he's a nihilist, but yeah. So it's like literally, you know. Well, Shermer, have you ever been to Rome? He's like, well, no, and so why do you believe that it's there? And then, you know, he'll go into like all the epistemological stuff on, you know, how he can verify that claim without actually seeing it, and then, you know, turn that back around. And so, like, all right, so let's do UFOs now. All right.
All right.
Yeah, you have these pictures. They're on this guy's cell phone. This guy told you because he knew a guy who worked over there and saw these things at one point in time, you know, and stuff. He's like, this is not the same, you know. So in terms of standard evidence and stuff like that. But anyway, he was interviewing Schellenberger, and he was asking some of these questions, you know, and Schellenberger was getting a little defensive with him on it. He was like, well, but the guy said that, you know, well, I mean, he didn't do it sniveling like that. He doesn't do that. So, but, you know, it was one of these things where they kept going around the same point, and Shermer was just kept making the same point. It was like, well, how do you know that? Okay, so I mean, you're making a value judgment based upon the character and reputation of these people whose names you won't share with us.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Who we can't verify who they are. Okay, or how much experience they actually have. We just have to take your word for it on this thing. And then on top of that, the guy who's the leaker, you know, tried to get this out to 4 different major news sources, which have published shit on UFOs before, and they all shot him down. So, you know, that's what I have to go off of here. So, yeah, Schellenberger was a little. He's polite. He's a good journalist. I like him, but he was definitely, you know, I think he went into that one thinking that he was going to convert Michael Shermer, who doesn't believe in shit. You know? So, which is kind of fun to watch, which is why he's on my feed.
Hey, I don't have any, you know, problems with that perspective, you know, per se. I think it's certainly a valuable angle to have when you're dealing with things like that. I mean, I know on the other side that when it comes to actually doing investigations and stuff like this, a lot of times it's the people who actually believe in the things that actually turn up interesting things because of it's what drives them to, you know, keep looking and,
Yeah, sure.
you know, things like that. So,
Oh no, they're both valuable. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I respect both, you know, sides of this, because that's what actually does a journalism,
Yeah.
versus,
I mean, it's the activism piece that gets under my skin a little bit.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, okay, so if UFOs are real, you know, something tells me that you, Mr. Jeremy Corbell, are going to be the worst, sorest winner that we've ever seen. You know, and so I just don't want
on that show.
I don't
that
want
I
him to be right just because of that. Now,
that fucking guy, yeah, that dude.
He's on all the time, man. So he makes the rounds everywhere. So like the whole thing.
He's a documentarian.
He's a documentarian, which is when you take 2 words that mean different things and glue them together. You know. So yeah, no, he shows up all the time, man. But see, like the funny thing is, I got introduced to him not through his movies because he's done a couple movies and stuff, but he showed up on Rogan with Bob Lazar. And it was like,
Look, this is exactly what I'm talking
about.
This was the show that I'm doing.
Yeah, okay. So Bob Lazar shows up every now and then and stuff, but you know, it was like, well, every time this asshole over here who's the third wheel opens his mouth, I want to shut up because I'd rather listen to these 2 guys.
Yeah.
So it's literally the guy who just butted in on our conversation, man. And so, well, I'm the guy who brought everybody together, so I get a seat at the table. It's like, no, you don't. You can just sit in a car. You know? So, I don't know, man, but something just tells me that if UFOs turn out to be real, he's gonna be the world's sorest loser or winner on it. You know, and it's all about like all you idiots who believe in Christianity, ha ha ha, take this now, or whatever. Or all those of you who believe in Newtonian physics, ha ha ha, take this, you know, kind of thing.
But that's not Lazar's angle. That's
not Lazar's angle, no.
But, no, I'm just saying that like he's not arguing against Newtonian physics.
No, I think Jeremy Corbell would love that.
Oh well,
I'm not
yeah.
talking about Bob Lazar. Bob
No,
Lazar's got his own fucking problems.
that dude.
Yeah.
And I think it starts with malnutrition. I think
Cocaine.
if you see you know the name, so that means that you've seen him. There's this.
Yeah.
You just look at the guy. It's like you have bad skin. You know, it's.
Yeah. Looks like the underfed version of Stephen King.
You do. It's like you look at this guy, you're like, dude, you got to eat more than one fucking peppermint patty a day. Like it's
Yeah,
it's like,
that's some saltines does not a meal make.
the fuck's wrong with you? No, and you know, it's of course he's just like, well, it's a gravimetric drive and you know things like that. And I'm like, well, if that's true,
Right.
and you worked on it,
Do the math.
well,
Yeah.
it wasn't just do the math. I'm like,
Right.
then just make one now.
Right. Yeah.
Because again, that's the part of this. Like, so people do disappear. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting there saying that. I don't want to think about this. We're not. This is not taking a road trip to the '90s where it's kind of like they don't want you to know this, man,
Right.
and
Right.
and they'll make you disappear. It's just like, so if you worked on this, it's like, yeah, I'm like, they just let you talk about it. Like they let you leave this facility with this information,
You didn't get shot. Yeah.
and well, or you know, there aren't dudes like you're not being harassed or whatever. I'm like, that seems unlikely. It's not impossible. I don't know. Maybe this
Yeah.
is a kindler, gentler, you know, version of that government that I'm told is so oppressive. That's not to say that
Yeah.
obviously like MK Ultra things weren't going on, because obviously they were. But
yeah,
I
but we
mean,
found out about all those things, man.
well,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas you know, I don't think there's another government on the planet that would be like, you're going to tell you about this.
Oh yeah, China, you'd be gone in
Right,
10 minutes.
right.
Yeah. So, I mean, they just throw you in a wood chipper at that point
Yeah,
in time. Yeah.
right.
So,
Without a trial, yeah.
right.
That
yeah,
is the
sure.
trial.
That is the trial. If you
Yes,
survive,
yes.
you're free to go.
You survived the mandated wood chipper, yeah. It's
a wood chipper.
yeah. So if you worked on this stuff and you know all about it, then just make one, or do some kind of like proof of concept, or just you know go out there and say like, all right, well this is exactly how this works.
Well, yeah, you'd think you'd be like, if you saw something like that, you'd spend your life. Well, I don't know. You don't know motivations and stuff.
No.
I mean, to be fair, he did take a lot of shit for it and stuff, so maybe he just noped out. I don't know, man. But, I think the more likely of all explanations is he was going through a rough time in his marriage. He saw some shit at work he didn't fully understand, and, wanted to show off secret things to his friends. So,
Quotes.
those were dick figures, yeah. And then got surprised when they saw him because they possess night vision too, buddy. So, and then, it just seems like a good way to actually kind of like spin that in your own mind as a way that maybe you did see something that was really fucked up. You don't know what it is. But if it just blows your mind like that,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, and eventually it comes to a point where you can throw this out there. I'm just gonna say this is you can say something in your own head enough times to the point where yes, you do believe it.
Yep, you can.
From what I'm seeing of this guy, I genuinely believe that he believes what he's saying.
Sure. Yeah. No, I
Right?
think he's sincere about it.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, then take this to any Ivy League mathematician or engineer and say like, this is what I saw. This is
Yeah.
and they'll pound it out with you on paper and say, all right, well, we can do this.
Right. Yeah.
Because
and him whole line about like his transcript and shit like that, it just didn't really add up, in terms of that. It's kind of weird, man. So I mean, he did build a rocket car, so obviously he's a smart dude.
right,
Yeah.
right. But it takes more than like, well, this is my drawing.
Well, yeah, exactly. With the stick people, for scale. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. So the stuff that's been going on the last I've seen a couple guys who are just furious that we're not talking about it more. But we've seen this show so many times now.
Yeah.
That's just what it. I mean, the History Channel ruined the magic for everybody. So yeah, it
That's
really
all they
did.
do.
It's all they do. It's like, yeah, I don't really care about Nazi gold anymore, or Aryan heritage and Superman
Right.
and I don't really care if the pyramid's perfectly aligned, which you can do with a piece of string and some water. So,
Uh, uh, right.
so
Right.
yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, there's just, it's like cable TV just destroyed all the magic. And so now everybody's like upset. I was like, what do you think fucking YouTube is? It's cable TV on crack. So, because you can go pick out whatever you want to see now at this point
Yeah.
in time. And there's lots of it. So,
No, absolutely. The
yeah.
fucking pyramids. It's like, what's the mystery of this? I'm like, nothing.
It's
It's
made
just,
out of rock.
it's like, guys, it's not
Yeah.
as though the pyramids are heavy part top and then it tapers down.
It's like an iceberg.
It's like, it's not a fucking funnel. It's like, so let me get this straight. It's like, what? It's like, so heavy stuff to the bottom at the widest part of the base. It's like, yeah. And you go up with less weight over time on these slopes. Yes.
Yeah.
What do we find in here? Dead people and their shit. And you're like, but why would they do this? I'm like, I don't know. Have you been to New Orleans and seen a mausoleum?
Oh,
It's like,
yeah, that's true.
do you think these people don't have an obsession with decorating their dead, especially when you feel that these people are god kings?
Oh my god, you gotta see some of the shit in Mexico. Have you seen that stuff?
Oh,
Oh fuck.
the pyramids there.
Well, no, no, not no. Just the shrines to people who died.
Oh,
Okay, they build
that's
like these small houses and fill it with their shit.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this is obviously certain types of people within the pyramid of that society.
Yes.
So but it was just amazing. But yeah, it's to your point. It's like, yeah, when people die, and if they're really rich, they do weird things with their shit.
They absolutely
Yeah.
do. Like, again, if your society acknowledged like uh Jeff Bezos as a god king,
Mm.
right? And they're like, well, he has billions of dollars.
Hmm.
We are going to build a monument to his testament upon his death. Like, okay, I got it, because he's divine
Right.
in their eyes.
In their eyes.
This is the thing. This is the argument that I've heard, that is, yes, obviously there is evidence of slave labor, but um my understanding is that a lot of this was voluntary, because this is something that is drawing divine favor, as people, like, they
Yeah.
wanted to work on this.
Yeah, I've seen a couple different. Well, Geo's done things on that over the years. Where they kind of looked at not just kind of the literature history, because there is quite a bit of that, not just from Exodus and things like that,
Yeah, yeah,
but also actually going in and unearthing the slave quarters. So, and
right.
finding that actually they had quite a bit more stuff than you see in other places where there's no slavery. Like Roman slavery was fucking awful. So,
I've heard.
yeah, it could get better or worse depending on who your boss was, but it was basically expected that he would rape you regularly. So, regardless of your gender.
Yeah,
So,
that I didn't know.
yeah, no, that's actually kind of normal. So, yeah, so it wasn't exactly a picnic. So, yeah, and so, but then they compare like, some of the Roman villas out there that they've unearthed, and okay, so this is slave quarters. It's actually much worse than what some of the places in what is it, the Valley of Kings. And
Oh
that's
yeah,
over
yeah.
that's like 3,000 years older. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
amazing how long ago those things were. So, you know,
And don't get me wrong, it's not as though I'm looking at these feats and I'm saying like, pish, right?
right.
Absolutely not. These are incredible accomplishments, especially for the time, when they talk about the tools that you need to do this and how much
Sure.
fucking work that is. Like, I got it. Like, I do. but why would you take something like that and say like, no, only aliens can do this? I'm like, what? Shape rock? I'm like
Oh, when
we
you
can
say it
do
like, yeah,
that.
we could do
It's like
that. Yeah.
we can do that.
Right.
People do that. People do that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite effectively with water too. So yeah, same thing like with Stonehenge. They keep redating that thing so it gets older and older, and then it's always brings up those questions about aliens or whatever, or Supermen who, got wiped out. They were part of Atlantis and blah 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 blah.
Right.
It's like, well, no, they just had a lot of time to work on this.
Right.
So yeah, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish if you got 10 years to work on it. So
Oh, not just 10 years, but they're also like, well, how could you, lift this? And the answer is always more guys. Like,
right, yeah, yeah, more people.
it's like we didn't lift it up with like 10. It's like, should we get like 10 more? It's
Let's
like,
try.
okay. We could get up with 20. Should we get like more
Double it.
guys?
Double it.
And if you can't do it with 40, you're like, fuck, why did we make this so heavy?
Right, yeah.
We're going to try this with a smaller rock.
Yeah, let's try a smaller rock.
Now, don't get me wrong. I absolutely, there's not a thing about these things that I don't wish was true. Like the wackier the theory, the better,
Mm,
right? Um, it's just the things they put out like man couldn't do this. Like man could do this now.
right, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the other, there's always this bias against like people in the past being completely retarded.
I
So,
know.
but they're not. you know. So, I mean, if you think about it, just about all of our like all of math and any kind of like logical study goes back to basically, maybe Aristotle, definitely Pythagoras, you know, and it's like, okay, that was a long time ago. Yeah, they may have not known, exactly why you needed to wash your hands after you went to the bathroom, but I'm pretty sure they still did it. So, yeah.
To some extent, yeah.
If you're an aristocrat in Rome, I'm sure you do. So, so if you're one of the patricians, whatever, or you don't, and it's fine. So that means that you didn't bother with it because you didn't have to. It wasn't that important. But I guarantee you, the things that were important, you paid attention to, just like people do today. So
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, look, there's this weird thing when it comes to like reverence of the past, where we're in this weird mode where we treat them exactly like children, where there
right,
is this half perspective where it's like, you guys are so rock stupid, right?
right,
Where oh, you think the sun goes around the earth and all this other stuff. And then there's this other part of it. It's like, well, these Aztecs, I mean, there's evidence that they built the first graphing calculator, and you know the
hmm
the thing is, like,
I've seen that.
you overlook this part where you're like, but they're ripping the hearts out of people, and
Hmm
like there's like that's the part that gets to me is it's the same thing. It's the same thing now where it's like, um well, you have to, monitor children because they're so stupid, but they could decide their gender identity at 4 and fully understand what that means. I'm like,
Right.
look, are kids retarded or super geniuses? Because,
You can't have it both ways.
or, here's the thing, or you can say that, yes, like all human beings, they run a gamut of intelligence,
Hmm
all the way through. But even still, even 4-year-olds still have a certain capacity to not understand based on lack of experience, not based on,
Sure.
I can sit you down and say, you have a 167 IQ
Yeah.
because of these little tests I put in front of you. But I can't go out there and say, like, well, clearly you understand the ramifications of gender identity because you're 4.
Well, right, but I mean that's a question of like confusing RAM from software.
I
Yeah, I
totally
know.
agree.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. I know.
So,
I
but
know.
yeah, like, and I think we do have a tendency to treat people who are even just a little bit older than we are. Like, if you actually sat down and talked with your great grandparents, they would say things that would make your skin curl, probably. You
In
know.
what way?
Well, I know some of mine probably would have been screamingly racist. So you
Oh,
know.
no doubt.
Yeah, no
I
doubt.
don't have to go to my great grandparents to,
I don't think I have to go too
to
far
go that
past my
far.
grandparents. My grandparents are okay though, so at least the ones that I met, which was not all of them. But anyway, you know, and so yeah, you'd find some things that are pretty jarring. But I mean, you know, I guarantee you, if you put like a fucking crossword puzzle in front of them, they probably figure it out pretty quick. You know, so
Well, yeah,
right, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's like it's not really that far removed in terms of technology. So, and things like that. Now, if you go back like 10 generations and say, okay, so this is a two-stroke motor, they'd be like, wow, you know?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So, but if you put a crossword puzzle in front of those guys, they'd probably fucking get it. You
Well, I mean,
know?
you know, obviously I have every, a piece that, Shakespeare, Chaucer, and everything ever went. So I put a crossword puzzle in front of these guys. They would say, "This is word wizardry, and I love it."
Yeah, exactly. So then we'd have much better crossword puzzles today.
Right,
So,
right.
but I mean, so fundamentally, it's just it's a test of your ability, your cognitive capacity, and so they're not going to be stupider. So
No,
yeah, right. I guess that's my point. That's where I was going with that.
it's 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 the cognition based off of the surrounding, uh, elements and what's there in their society to cognate with.
Right.
Right. If you simply don't have the technology there, but that doesn't mean that you're not pushing, because again, it's the same thing as they're going to sit there and say like, all right, well, could any of you fuckers, like any of the people I'm looking at like right now, I'm like, did are any of you assholes Euclid? Are you any of you sitting here with like a piece of paper and coming up with this? Are any of you
Oh
guys
yeah.
Newton? I'm like, to look at it and say like these guys are so backwards. I'm like, that dude had a piece of paper.
That guy figured it out.
Yes.
Yeah, you just learned it.
Right.
So those two different things.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously there's some brightness that goes into there, and
Sure.
like I'm talking about like he kept going,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, obviously there's bright spots in here and things like that because they're working with what they have. Like it's the same thing. Like the combustion engine was a stroke of absolute genius.
Yeah.
Um,
Still is. Yeah.
and again, I'm not downplaying modern society. That's I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. This the the little trend that we have to sit there and say humans are so dumb. I'm like, oh fuck off.
Oh,
Like
fuck off
humans
with
are.
that shit. If you spend any time with kids, man, you know right off the bat. Kids are not puppies. They are very different. They're much more intelligent.
Except for the ones that are puppies.
There are
But
a
that's the
couple
thing.
that are puppies. Yeah.
But like all things, it runs the gamut, and
Yeah,
that's
it does.
where
Yeah.
to make blanket statements of, um, well, kids should be able to do this. I'm like, some maybe. Like again, like I can go within my own family and say like, well, some kids in this family
Mm-hmm.
aren't to be trusted around combustible things. Others are.
Real power tools.
Within the same family.
Yeah.
You guys share, in theory, 100% of these same genetics and upbringing. But one of you likes to start fires.
Yeah. And smash concrete in the garage. Yeah. So you're gonna take the hand tools away now too. You get this Fisher Price one, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah, yeah.
I get that. This is a deep pessimism among certain segments of society about that. This is a deep resentment of just about anything that anybody's been managed to accomplish in one way or another,
Jesus, I know.
regardless of whether or not they were building pyramids 4,000 years ago without spaceships. So, yeah, exactly.
It's
like
impossible. They couldn't have
I
done
know, you
it.
just
They
don't want to give
couldn't
somebody the
have.
credit, man. You just don't want to actually dish out credit to somebody for doing something right. So, yeah. There's a lot of that going on, man. So, I'm getting tired of it.
It's
So,
it's so it's so old. The and I get it. I understand why, and there's a certain part of me that says like, all right, I can respect the idea of we have for the past, mm, I don't know, I would say since the late 1770s, we've held certain ideas on a pedestal, and that's fine because a lot of those things deserve to be there. But there's also a lot of we really need to elevate certain cultures and downplay certain other ones. I'm like, guys, like you don't have to put one down to elevate the other. You don't have to sit there and say, well, this was all wrong.
Well, it's just zero sum thinking, man. I mean, okay, so my Marxism detector's going off. I'm gonna get out that right now. So it is, yeah. So the Marxometer is at the moment, where it's like, well, if they are winning, then that obviously means we're losing, kind of thing.
Yes.
And so we need to change that equation right there. But I mean, yeah, that's classic Marx. So it's so dumb. So God.
It's
Hate that stuff.
it is, and just this thing where it's look, we're gonna celebrate Juneteenth tomorrow. I mean, this is the
Fine.
it's fine. Yeah, I get the day off, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you want to talk about like again, it's the same thing where you look at other cultures and certain things and say like, all right, well, these guys actually had to figure out. Oh, these guys actually figured this out 5,000 years ago. It's like, but that's not the same thing. That's not plumbing. You're calling it plumbing. It's not plumbing. They built on top of a river.
There's no tap and groove in this.
It's like you asshole. It's like,
yeah.
I remember there's this thing now where it's essentially trying to attribute basically any meaningful invention in history and to tie it back and say, oh, actually, this happened in Africa, 5,000 years ago. I'm like, no, it didn't. How do you know?
Yeah, no. So Africa doesn't have a really good record of writing things down to let us know what actually happened there.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember this one argument was like, some dude was like, well, we invented singing. I'm like, how do you know?
How could you possibly know that? Yeah, so exactly. It's like, okay, so where did writing come from? Nobody fucking knows. So I mean, they have guesses.
Uh-huh.
So, and they know that it developed in multiple places at roughly the same time. And by time, we're talking thousands of years. So,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
But
So,
you know with certainty? Yeah, again,
exactly. It was like, no, that we can't, it's indeterminate whether or not that was actually the place. And who the fuck cares if it was? Okay. So, really when it comes down to it, I mean, you own no stake on your ancestors' achievements. You didn't do that.
Well,
So, but that makes me extremely unpopular among certain groups, man.
no. You're absolutely right, and I mean, it's to flip it around and then say like, all right, well, okay, well, if you get to take credit card for the credit for that, then. Well, then my people invented credit cards. You don't get to use those.
Yeah, you don't get to use my credit card. Yeah, exactly. My people invented credit cards.
Like, you don't get to use that.
Yeah, my people invented cell phones. Give me that back.
What am I supposed to say? Like, and I turn around and say, like, how dare you eat noodles?
Right,
and
exactly.
These are my folks, but I'm like, the Chinese don't own that shit.
Right,
they don't.
Yeah. Exactly. Slap that rice out of your hands. So,
what the fuck?
I get it, man. I get it.
What the
fuck? Dude, but it's just like people get so intertwined with like their dads and their moms and their ancestors, and you didn't choose any of that, man. You won the lottery, whatever way that you did when you came into this world. You had no say in that, at least not to our knowledge. So I mean, fucking. Of all the things in your world you should be proud of, that one should be last. So
you didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything. Yeah, you just like showed up.
Well, it's the exact same. What's funny is it is the exact same thing that they criticize people for because it's like, all right, so our people, like my people, did this, this, and this, right? I'm like, okay, great. Why are you picking on people in this day and age that come from like a legacy family? Like, because all they're doing is exactly what you're doing right now.
Oh yeah, no, that's a complete, that's a great way to short circuit any of that thinking, but it never works. There's no breaker on it; it doesn't trip.
It's that's like
It's just an open feed, man.
yeah, yeah, you're right. That's
Yeah.
that's just bad electric. Yeah, that's yeah. No, because it's like, well, it's like, well, we invented this. I'm like, so why don't you have the leg up then?
Yeah, exactly. So, or even if you did, why are you picking on quote unquote that nepo baby over there? I mean, what you're doing is exactly the same. So that does not compute, man.
I know.
That does not compute.
Well, that was then. I'm like, all right, that was then.
Yeah.
What
So
we
was
doing
that.
now?
Yeah,
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 exactly.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Which, yeah, I know that you're all of your Marxism roads lead to Rome, and you're like, you're gonna see it as like, oh, you don't want to work.
yeah, you don't want to work. Got it. Yeah. So it's like, oh, you want me to pay you for doing nothing? Got it.
It's
So, and you know what? So, like, I if I were on the Twitter, I would have gotten an argument about this last week, but
oh, what's the
I don't know what the debate was, but there was something going around that I saw and it bled over to my YouTube feed. So, and it was the Marxist bullshit and stuff like that. And so I actually went back and I started reading some of my Lenin. You know what he said?
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah, his most of what he said is fucking horseshit. So it's pretentious drivel. So written by a very angry man. So which is kind of the worst kind. But anyway, that's my critique of Lenin. So, but he did. They were very emphatic. The Bolsheviks were very emphatic. He who does not eat, does not work, does not eat.
Yeah.
And so it was just one of those things. It's like, wow, I haven't heard that in ages.
He does not work, neither shall he eat. Yeah.
Neither shall he eat. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was like, I hadn't heard. I mean, I remember studying all that shit and how that was central. And it was meant not just as a criticism of, aristocrats who basically didn't work.
Yeah.
But it was also designed to actually clean the party out of, like, fucking slackers and hangers-on. And I was like, oh my God, there'd be no party left. So now these days. So
right, but the problem here is that there are still people well, actually a lot of people still believe in that interpretation. It's just that they like
right.
The turn around and say like, yeah, I get to eat. It's like, why? It's like, well, because I have a YouTube channel. I'm like, okay,
No,
all right, gotcha. Like,
yeah. We got rocks over here that need breaking. So,
yeah,
get to it, buddy.
I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So let's say that you do fancy yourself an intellectual creator. Like, well, I hate to say it, if that's what you think you are, well, you're either breaking rocks or you're the first executed.
Yeah, you go to the wall first.
You're
buddy.
going to get the wall.
You're gonna work today. You're gonna be target practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not about what you find valuable to society. It's about what they find valuable to society.
And you know what we're really short on? Home healthcare aides. You know what? You should go wipe grandma's ass every now and then rather than sit there and fucking bloviate on the internet. So, she needs you more than the internet does. So come on, man.
But
Nobody likes to hear that.
But no, I'm here to point out feminist themes in the Flash.
Yeah, no, your grandma needs you. We need sheets to change. She's thirsty. Go get her Gatorade, please.
Are you asking
Yeah.
or are you telling?
I'm telling now at this point. Well, I guess I can't tell. That's a different kind of society than the one that we have.
Right.
So
right.
yeah.
Right.
But if this was Pat's Gulag Society, I'm gonna leave the education department to you. So, I'm in charge of labor around here, buddy.
Well, Patrick, you have to understand the educational gulag is there to make the outside life a paradise.
Right. Yeah.
In comparison.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess mine's the design would be to make you appreciate your time off more. So,
well, and this is the thing. Part of the gulag, actually, this is where I'm gonna actually and say like, well, actually, Islam actually afforded a lot of reforms that made life easier for people.
Until they started flinging gay guys off the top of buildings.
Well, see,
But
that's the
yeah, that's
problem.
the problem. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Not what I'm going to say here is that the reforms that come along with Jeffrey's educational gulags also come with certain abolishments, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of that comes from the realm of homework, right?
Right.
Is if I'm going to believe what I do believe about the work atmosphere, I do believe work ends at the end of the work day. And so, like, what you're meant to accomplish in
Mm.
the day is it stops there.
Yeah.
Like, on rare occasions, it's like, no, we want you to study for tests.
Yeah.
That you can do at home,
Yeah.
right? But as far as me sending you home with fucking 3 hours worth of extra work on top of the work that we're doing,
Yeah.
that shit stops now.
Well, some of that's just bloat. And you know that, man. So,
Certainly.
yeah, it's just, hey, we have so many things we have to cover. And, we insist on making sure that people are done with primary and secondary education by the time they're 18 in this country. So, that's just bloat. So, I suggest we cut history first.
You've made that clear.
Yeah.
I think that a baseline, a certain amount of history. I would argue that.
You can have a semester of it in 8th grade. That's fine.
No, I would argue that you would have an intersection of history and geography.
I don't even know if you need to learn geography anymore. So nobody knows how to navigate without a phone. It's fine. So,
Oh no, I'm not talking about it in terms of knowing where you are
oh, okay.
physically, because yes, obviously I'd be the first dead if my phone couldn't navigate for me, because I can't take other people's directions for some reason.
Okay.
I'm so stupid that I can't like. They're like,
I have seen you fuck it up a couple times.
Jesus
To be
Christ,
fair.
man! Like I can't even defend it in this where it's like, what part of the third light did you not get? I was like, well, I don't know if that counted as a street or
right, yeah. So,
So yeah, obviously it's not that, but there is just a sense of like I wish that other people knew that other countries exist, or to
sure.
sit there and say like, well, these are the mountain ranges here, and to say like, all right, well, I want you to know how like geography like influences history in some ways. This is where settlements happen.
Yeah.
There's a reason that this is called the cradle of civilization because of the
The Fertile Crescent.
yes,
Yes.
yes, and things like that. That's what I'm talking about in terms of like history intersecting with geography, just to have a sense of like, oh, okay, well, this is the world we live in.
I would do maybe like a brief smattering of U.S. history. That would tie
Anywhere.
directly into it would not go past World War II. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, no. Well, I guess he could take it up to Vietnam. Vietnam's been what, almost 50 years now?
Isn't that wild, no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 50 years is kind of my cutoff. So other than that, history is just speculative. So if it's underneath 50 years. So, or it's tainted by people who aren't dead yet.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
you need to get rid of all the people that were alive during that time before you can have a good perspective on it. So,
Purgation.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, well, I mean, and it's not like to be mean or anything. It's just, first person accounts color experiences greatly. So, like, of course, people are going to think the Holocaust was a really big fucking deal, and it was, right, in a lot of respects, because there's still a lot of people out there, and you're not going to go up to, some girl who was 6 years old and survived in a latrine for 6 days and say, actually, your history's not that important. No, you're not going to do that. So,
Right.
but
Right.
if I can do that in 20 years as a historian and actually take a more perspective look at it, that's actually more productive in the long run to understanding history. So that's my 2 cents. Not all historians agree with me, but fuck them. So, but anyway, they're just trying to sell books.
Well, the best part is, generally speaking, when it comes to like donuts and homosexuality, like a lot of historians, having heard that, aren't going to show up on my door and say like, "Where's Pat? I'm going to kick his ass." No,
I don't think so. Yeah,
it's just not really. Those are the guys that go into military history. Those are the guys.
military history is its own fucking it's this offshoot specialty thing that is for guys who paint miniatures and don't want to actually involve themselves in the larger
And have
issues.
tattoos down to their wrists.
They have
Yeah.
tattoos down their wrists. They were probably veterans themselves, and they think that, this is really, really important. And then you realize, if you study enough history, the war itself isn't that important. What's important is who won, and that's it. So the rest of it's just funsies. So it's candy.
To a point. Well,
It is.
it's also it's who won and what happened afterward.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, because that's the world we have to live in now. So, yeah, that's much more important than who Erwin Rommel was and what the fuck he did in the desert.
you watch the movie for that. You watch the
Right. Or you start a YouTube channel.
right. Yeah. It's a you jump in there.
That's great, man. So I mean, as a guy who has a World War II channel, all right, I see it for what it is. I think it's fun. So
I totally
I'm not
understand.
going to turn around and say that someone who actually studies serious, economic history and, well, okay, let's talk about nuclear war, shall we? And all these things that came out of World War II kind of at the same fucking time really mattered. It was like, yeah, that matters a lot more than the fact that,
This is the Desert Fox.
this is the Desert Fox.
You know why they call him that?
Because he was a foxy guy and he fought in the desert. So yeah, I know. So, and I can even list all his battles in probably chronological order. I will not do that.
I'm not going to test you on that.
Don't, okay?
Because I can't tell you if you're right or wrong.
Well, okay. So that's my point. It's not important. So,
Did he win?
no, he lost. Thank you for making my point. So yeah, you get a little smattering of U.S. history. So this is the Constitution. This is how this happened. You want to learn about a war? Let's just focus on the big one. Okay, that was, in the 1860s. So it was important because the whole country changed after that. Okay, so and then we'll get up to World War II. So and we're good at that point. I don't need you to know what Teapot Dome was. I don't need you to tell me who was.
I know what it
I
is.
know what it. I know you know what it is. I don't need you to tell me the president who had 2 non-consecutive terms. So it doesn't fucking matter. So, maybe we can read some Mark Twain. It's cool. So it's good for you. So
you can say it's interesting to know that prior to FDR, it wasn't a requirement that
Right.
they only had 2 terms.
It was just kind of understood.
It was just understood.
Yeah.
Yes.
They had to make a rule because of that guy.
Right.
Yeah, which passed with overwhelming support. It's an amendment to the Constitution, man. So it was like one of the fastest ones that ever got passed because it was like, no, we don't want to do that again.
Right.
So everybody gets a bite at the apple.
And
One guy for like fucking 12 years.
And it's not like,
So,
they went out there and said, well, sir, it's because you did such a horrible job.
Oh, no.
I mean, well, you didn't do a horrible job. You won 4 times.
Yeah.
Right?
Huh?
It wasn't just like, well, I won the first time, so I just get to... I'm going to stay.
Right, yeah. We said, no, we don't do kings around here. You're getting awful close there, buddy. So, fortunately, polio took care of it. So,
Sometimes it has to.
sometimes it has to. So,
Sometimes polio has to do with the government system can't. It's...
yeah, or John Wilkes Booth, whatever. Although we could have used another term out of him. So
I'm not
probably
going to fight you on
JFK
that.
too.
Again,
we could have used another term out of JFK.
there's a lot of rewriting about Lincoln and stuff like that here too. And you know what? To be fair, I mean, there are things that I'm learning about Lincoln that you probably already knew, where it's like, but at least take this perspective too when it comes to certain potential overreaches of authority.
Oh, Lincoln?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he suspended habeas corpus.
Yeah.
He wrote about it at the time. He's like, I don't want to do this, but I got it. So, I was like, yeah, I mean, all of Maryland is basically an insurrection right now, and that's all around my house. So,
Like,
so it's gonna be awful hard to run the war out of this place.
you gotta understand, I'm pretty big,
Yeah.
and I used to do the pegboard just for exercise, but there's
That's
this,
what he did.
it's like, but there's this kid down the street, and like, he looks like he takes steroids with every meal, and he just keeps giving me the side eye,
1860. Squeeze it out of the squirrel.
He used to just give me the dirtiest look, and I know if I just like sit down and say like, Oops, I dropped my lunchbox. It's it for me.
Yeah.
And that's, I get it. It's that's one of those things that where you do take the good with the bad, and then you turn around and
Sure.
say like, but let's look at the end result for a second and say, all right, so emancipation, huh?
Yeah, that one worked out.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, got it. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take that as a net positive.
He did a lot of shit, man. So every time I go back and read on him, I forget. I was like, oh yeah, that was him. So I was like, fuck. So that whole transcontinental, that was him. So
Right.
yeah, the homestead, that was him. So it's like, how many states did you bring? Oh my god. Okay, so you're a busy dude. Unlike the five guys before you.
Yeah, those fucking guys.
Those fucking guys.
fucking guys that made this a problem. You want to talk about kicking a can down the road?
They did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand like the problem of. So what if we just leave this here?
Right.
Right. I say like, well, we'll just like it's their thing. They do this down here, and then they have the same fight every time. Like, well, is this going to be a free state or a slave state? And like, oh boy, everybody's got an
yeah.
opinion about this.
Yeah. To the point in time where it's just like, fuck it, let's just shoot each other and see who's left. So,
You just like, how did these guys solve this in the UK 30 years before without fighting a war? I'm like, oh right, because it's different.
Yeah, because it's different.
It's not that you were just so fucking civilized. I'm like, no, it just didn't impact you the same way.
No. Yeah, well, and I mean that, and the, so like the king was still in charge, and so when he says at that point in time,
Right.
yeah, he's like, well, Parliament, you need to sort it out, but I'm going to order the Royal Navy to shut this shit down. So, and he did, and they did, and then a lot of people were like, oh, what about my guy? And it was like, well, that's the last one you get, buddy. So, and after a couple of years, it was like, nah, you don't get him anymore either. So it was completely different. So whereas here it was like, yeah, it was like, oh, we're gonna fight over this, aren't we? Yeah, it's gonna be a big
Gonna
fight.
have to.
Yeah, it's gonna have to. Yeah.
Like, do you want to? It's like, no.
No. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do, and that's just so ridiculous when I hear people talk about the Great Separation and the new Civil War and stuff. It's like it's not even fucking close, man. So you do not understand, man. So I mean that was pretty clean cut right there, So, I mean, Virginia had a little problem. That's why you have two of them now. But everybody else is kind of like, I'm red team, I'm blue team. Got it. Okay. So, are you shirts or skins?
Well, and you sit there and you break it down and say, tell me, what exactly would be fighting a civil war over?
Right.
And you say, like, all right, so what are these issues that you have that would drive us to shoot at each other?
What, today?
Yeah.
I don't even fucking know, man. Because I don't know that many people are that upset about certain things. So, I mean, so like, if you can be mad at like super liberal politicians and stuff like that in California, all right, fine, let them stew in their own juices. We don't need to go to California and shoot them. So it's not going to work out for them. So that's fine, and that doesn't involve near as much violence. So there you go.
Or Texas or Florida. Yeah, it's like...
Or Texas or Florida. I mean, Texas, like, all your cities are blue in Texas. So, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to fucking surround Fort Worth? Okay. There's more inside the fort than there are outside. That's not going to work either, man. And
no.
So what are you going to do?
They say, what about this transgenocide fucking legislation out of Florida? I'm like, well, you're telling me that you would amass an army to fight the people. There's like, you'd kill somebody for that. It's like,
no, I don't.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I don't think you would. Yeah,
you would have to get off Reddit and leave your house.
you'd have to uninstall Discord.
You fucking kidding me? It's like,
yeah, no.
There's no civil war happening. Like, yes, we have fucking miscreants here. Okay, we have troublemakers on both sides, right?
Yeah,
we do. We have people that go out there and like to wear the fucking black masks and fucking do vandalism. All right, got it. We used to call those angry kids back in the day.
Yeah.
Right? I got it. Okay, the only difference here is that the cops wear body cams now. So that
Hmm.
back in the day, like they would say, like, "Oh look, bad kids. So hit them in the ribs."
Yeah, and then cuff them so they can't get away. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and then chain them together. So yeah.
Right. So I understand that now you have to play by different rules. Does that mean that bullshit went on back in the day where it's like, whoa, man, this is kind of a big overstepping what the cops can do? Yeah, of course. That's the
That's why we don't use the National Guard to do that anymore.
oh
So
my god.
yeah, exactly. So in fact, I can tell you the year when that stopped. Yeah.
Can you tell me why it stopped?
I don't know. It had something to do with a bunch of kids who got out of line on a fucking college campus or something.
They
Who
sure did,
knows?
yeah.
Yeah. Or at least that's what I've been told.
That's what the song
So,
says. Yeah, that's
right.
fucking Neil Young wrote that song about it. Yeah. No, this is, but yeah, that's the thing is like, you guys are sitting there bitching about like more transparency. I'm like, what are you stupid?
Well, who's bitching about transparency?
Well, this is what I'm talking about. Is like, so yeah, the and now you're seeing what the cops have to deal with, right? Now you're
Yeah, it's
seeing what
awful.
what that kind of stuff is going on, and you know what? They're handling it, and of
Yeah.
course you sit there and say like, well, it's like, well, no, actually, the transparency is what's causing it to change. We have to
Hmm.
rethink what we were doing here because,
Oh, in terms of their tactics? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
yes, this is exactly how this changes. Instead of those, you know, 35 years that we spent, making this the sixth branch of the military.
Yeah, I mean, but see, the thing that's cool about that is that almost all of those have been local initiatives. So where they would turn around
Yeah,
and say like, "Hey, our cops are a little bit fucked up here. Let's get them all body cams, and they'll start behaving a little bit better." And that's actually pretty true. So
it's improving. It's
a
not.
lot, a
Yeah.
lot, yeah. So you're gonna get some old school cops, "Rawr, back in my day, rah, 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 rah,"
Uh,
went to billy club, kind of thing. But
yeah.
nowadays it's kind of like, oh, actually no, I just turned this thing off, and guess what? They magically disappear. So because the court system still got some pretty serious fucking teeth behind it, man.
Uh
So,
huh.
yeah. So is it perfect? No. Does it work most of the time? Yeah. So, and I mean, like, it's the whole thing up in, your mom's neck of the woods, Seattle in particular, where they went through all this shit and then they, started getting some of those prosecutions going through there and they find that it's just like 10, 15 people. So, who are causing like 90% of the fucking problem.
Well, and they're bringing people along with them, but
Yeah,
it doesn't work without that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you've got your ringleaders in there, your folks who are willing to actually go all around and then throw Molotov cocktails at police lines. And then you have a whole bunch of people who just, hey, I'm here for the views.
Well,
So,
you here
yeah.
for the views or just like I'm here to cause some trouble? It's like, look, I've caused trouble.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
right.
Okay, I was a kid, and this is exactly the kind of thing where, if I were younger, they said like, so there's enough guys out there. It's like, yeah, and they're all wearing masks. I'm like, you can't see our faces. It's like, yeah. It's like, and they're causing some trouble. Like, I can get on board with that. I shouldn't,
Right.
but I'm 15.
But yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, you already know I like to start fires. So I mean, it's like, uh,
Should I bring some power tools?
are you telling me that in my own demented sort of way, I can take out my juvenile frustrations with life under the guise of social justice? Like,
Oh,
yes,
that's
I'm
an
like,
easy one.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so where do I need to sign?
Right.
You
So
know,
when are we getting together?
now would I
So,
really read that shit? No, I'm too much of a pussy because, and number one, I don't believe what's being said, but I can couch myself in that
yeah,
and get swept
you
up
can
in it.
use it as armor, so to speak.
Absolutely. So I could see myself doing that crap in sort of my younger radical days, but like to turn around and say like, all right, well, this is civil war. It's like, no, man,
No.
because if it were civil war, here's the thing. This is one of the things that I found absolutely fascinating. Aside from the Rittenhouse events, and again, he was exonerated for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, what I noticed was that the cities in peril didn't have groups of militias opening fire on
Mm-mm.
on rioters and protesters and things like that. Like that didn't happen.
No. No, and they wouldn't go into the cities anyway. So they're not about like reforming America from that end.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's all. Let's infiltrate the military and fucking take it over this way. Kind of thing. It's a completely different way of looking at it from left as opposed to right. I mean, the right, like, if you look at your far right groups, they actually look to exclude people, from their shit.
Yes.
So yeah,
It becomes more and more dangerous the more exclusive it gets.
yeah, of course, because you're talking to the same fucking five guys on Reddit, man. Yeah, so you're gonna sit there and pump each other up and tell about the next slide attachment you bought for your fucking AR. So,
Well, but this is the part that's funny. Is like, so yeah, so you get together with this group, and again, this was like what the militia guys told me. From Montana, it was like some of those guys. They were like, the further in, the weirder it got.
oh yeah,
Because at first he was like, I can agree with this idea of, and this is a true accounting. He's like, I can agree with this idea of people that in sides of danger or something like that, they're prepared to do something about it. So like, okay, so I can get on board with this. It's like, it's not gonna happen, but it could happen, and I
no,
don't mind being a part of that group. I said, okay. I was like, but then the next layer went in, and I was like, what about the Jews? And then
right, yeah,
so
exactly.
that's what he.
Like, what
It's
did you
like,
say about pizza?
yeah. Each step
Is this a
in,
chain? Yeah.
each step in was more exclusionary, and it's like, nah, man, like,
Bro,
till you
it's
get
just like
the-
racists on the job, man. They're looking for allies, but
Yeah.
they gotta suss you out first, man.
yeah, yeah,
And then it's smaller and smaller and smaller. They don't look for, fights to pick with people downtown Denver.
No.
They're like basically convinced, oh, well, it'll burn itself to the ground. It won't be our fucking problem anyway. So, during those things. I mean, I haven't had too much exposure to that shit in a long time, but I used to know some guys who were kind of like, I knew one guy in particular at that bullshit college I taught at who was neck deep in that stuff.
yeah.
And he was former law enforcement. So it
Yeah.
was one of those things where it was like, okay, so all the stereotypes, we're going to check all the boxes on this app.
Why wouldn't we?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it was like, so you're in public service or we're in public service. And so your first inclination is if we had some kind of calamitous event is to fucking bolt away from all the people who are going to need your help. It was like, this does not jive. Okay. So, because one of these things is not congruent with the
Yeah.
other. Yeah,
Well
exactly.
said, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was like, well, obviously, you're trying to stitch together a narrative here
Huh.
using two backgrounds. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's interesting. But you're a law enforcement guy, and when this went down, you were like, women and children first, my ass.
Right, yeah, exactly. You were like, where's my fucking car? I'm gonna like pull over everybody with my Dodge Ram. So
Getting off the Titanic, rowing away in a lifeboat meant for 15.
well, and hitting people who are trying to get close to you. Yeah, I know. It's like, so you're that guy. You're the Billy Zane of this.
Yeah,
group.
yeah.
So it just
Oh my god.
And so when you
Right.
point that out to people, they don't like it too much, and so then you're no longer allowed to their meetings where they pass out pocket constitutions. And
Right.
what you're training to do is the exact opposite of everything that this book talks about. About like having a peaceful and prosperous society baked in the steeped in the juices of freedom. Okay, well, you just taking all the freedom, man.
Right.
Got
Like
it.
it's Black Friday.
Yeah, it's Black Friday. Yeah. Just show up for my 2 boxes of freedom. Where's mine? Yeah, fuck it, it's mine too.
Hey man, I gotta have this stuff, man. This is what I'm giving people for Christmas this year.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
I
it's kind
understand.
of crazy, man. So I don't know, man. So like the whole thing that's been going on in Chicago and stuff like that. I've been trying to keep on top of some of that. It seems to kind of come and go, but there's
Well, whenever there's a big event, people get shot.
exactly. So and then the same thing's going on with a lot of those Midwestern cities, man, where it's just like it's bad. And what the fuck is happening? People are doing what they should do. They're moving.
That's gonna solve a lot of the problems.
It's gonna solve a lot of problems, man. So, well, the same thing. I mean, all this stuff going on with San Francisco the last couple of weeks, where like these major tentpole, like the mall, the fucking movie theater, yeah, the bank, the huge hotel, they're all like, fuck this. And they just like, the mall guys just walked away from it. They said, it's the bank's problem now. So that's a very 2008 thing to do, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Then do
then
something
do
about it.
something
Yeah.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
your credit's gonna be fucked. I don't fucking care.
Fuck now.
Yeah, it's fucked now.
It's like, oh no, what are you gonna do to stamp it with double fucked? What am I gonna do?
Yeah, I get two F's on my. Yeah, exactly.
No, it's rough. Yeah,
It is rough.
Set places in Philly, they're doing the same thing. Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing is
Well, and so here's the other thing that I've been reading about. This is actually tanking rent prices in some of these places. And so this is the thing that
Yeah.
fucking communists have been talking about for years: rent control, and stuff.
I've never heard you say something more derisive in my life.
I know, but it is one of those things where it's like, well, you got what you wanted, man. So this is how the market works. And so when people decide to nope the fuck out of there because your neighborhood's on fire and you have to like shovel feces rather than snow, and
Right.
yeah, your property.
Yeah,
values are
that's
gonna
true.
go down.
Why should anyone in California own a snow shovel? It's like, well, this is for poo.
This is for poo, yeah.
Yeah.
Although again, I there are rays of hope out of Southern California, man. So because the way it's really interesting because the way that the law enforcement agencies are kind of stacked on top of each other. You got city cops and you have a humongous county.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, the city cops, their hands are tied, so call the fucking county guys, and they stormtroop their way in there, and they bust up all. So there's one guy that I do watch on YouTube, and he's very anti-cop and stuff like that, but he's a homeless advocate because he was homeless for a long time. He does these really heartfelt interviews with people who are homeless and talks about, man, this is fucked up, so like,
Yeah.
this guy went from here down to here, his family abandoned him, stuff like this, because he had, this problem, he just can't shake it and stuff like that, and throw him in a county, he gets clean, but then he gets rotated right back out because, that's how it works. All right. He's like, man, it'd be great if we could ship this guy to fucking here, or something. Just get him out of this community where this is freely available, open on the streets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, he's got videos up there where he's got fucking the county cops coming in. So they roll up in their trucks and they just start ripping all your shit down and throwing it in dumpsters. They got lines of trucks behind it. They just throw all your shit in there and they say, nope, it's gone. At this point in time, move along. So, and if you're still here in 30 minutes, you're arrested. So, and it's like, that's kind of heartless, but that's what needs to be done, man. So, because really when it comes down to it, if you chase out all the people who pay taxes, you're not going to have any programs. So it's going to turn into fucking San Francisco on you, and I mean, he hasn't done too many videos in San Francisco. I've seen a couple from San Francisco, and it is fucking horrifying.
It's terrifying.
I know, man.
I cannot picture like the scariest thought I could think of is raising kids there. I'm like,
oh, I'd be gonzo. So
you're like, wait, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to send you to school, without a fucking armed escort. Like you have to walk past this to get there
every day,
like
twice. Yeah, no, it's crazy, man.
It's like I'm more scared of that than I would have been from the fucking Zodiac. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
dude was like, I'm gonna like, did he say he's like, I'm gonna blow up a school bus?
Yeah,
And there were still kids on the buses the next day. Like, my parents don't love me. Because you got a lot of people's like, well, son, you gotta understand, like, if there were this many school buses,
right.
school,
We're playing the lottery.
yeah, so you're going to class.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like if I had to send my kids through there and say like, with these people on the street, I'm like, you have lost your fucking mind.
Yeah, they had this one guy who was he owned like a pretty nice looking townhouse, so in San Francisco, and this dude was interviewing him, and the guy's like, "Hey, look, man, I feel bad for these people and shit, but they keep fucking up my gate." It's like, I have replaced this thing so many times. I've come home to people who've broken into my house. So to the point in time where I actually have to lock my interior doors because I don't know who's there. So he's like, I can't live like this. So yeah. And I was like, fuck, man, yeah, that sucks. So,
And since obviously there aren't enough of you, willing to vote to change it. Look, this is the thing that I do have to give, New York credit for
Yeah.
is when things got so bad, they turned to a dictator and they said,
Yeah.
like, I need you to go out and
Right.
it's like and do what? It's like, stop anyone that looks suspicious, pat them down,
Yeah.
and arrest the shit out of them for anything that may be on their possession. And like, will that work? It's like, oh, it'll work.
Oh, it'll work.
Um,
Yeah, ACLU will be unhappy about it, but it will work.
but it will work.
Yeah.
And are they getting to the point where they might look, if people are leaving? Yeah, that's eventually you're going to have some it's one of two things is going to happen. It's like you're either going to get a Giuliani in these kind of places, or you're going to get enough people to leave
Or you
to
get a
actually
Bloomberg
change
again.
the fucking demographics of the
Yeah.
place. Like that's just how it goes.
Well, New York's so big though. It's a little bit
there too, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit different because I mean, you got to do a lot of electoral work to push the needle there.
Well,
But unlike California or San Francisco in particular, like they have a history there of completely ditching their current party and saying fuck off with this, pretty quickly. So, I mean, that's how you got Giuliani. I mean, Bloomberg was a complete compromise guy. So, yeah, but it was like,
well, he was a business guy.
well, exactly. Okay, so, but you don't hear too many people complain about him. So, I mean, you do. There's a few here and there. He did the whole soda thing and stuff like that. But
He did, and also like I guess a lot of like if you were in a union in New York,
you might
did
not
like
it.
it,
Yeah, you might
right?
not like
Because
it.
they were like,
Especially
wait,
public service unions.
it's like,
yeah.
wait, I gotta be. The last guy made me be 25. You want me to how old to retire? It's like, and Bloomberg. I mean, to his credit, he was a business guy. And he would explain it as like, so I know what you all are doing.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, if you think I don't understand the concept of double dipping, you are sadly mistaken.
I work on Wall Street.
Yeah.
I invented the machine that does this.
Right.
Yeah.
And he Mo Green, he just like, I double dip. You don't double dip.
You don't double dip
So
my
you-
cup.
you-
Yeah.
It's like, you don't put 20 years in my city and then fucking get another job on this one here and I pay you twice. No, not like you're either retiring, you're just like, so you're either going to stay in for 25, 30 years and I'll pay you out. But yeah, he did it in the nice way. He's like, well, if you were here, it's 20, right? If you're new, it's 25.
Yeah, that is the nice way to do that rather than jerk the rug out from underneath someone who's at year 19 and a half. So
Why? You sound like you've seen that happen before.
oh, not in a long time. So, but not in terms of changing like retirements. So,
Well, you knew people that.
well, I knew people who lost their pension because the company went bankrupt. My dad was
Yeah.
So, but the public service pension, I mean, the city does kind of have to burn to the ground before that thing's like, and I've had people say that, it's like, why are you doing the state retirement plan? I was like, because it's fucking great. So they were like, well, in the future, we're not going to be able to blah, blah, blah pay. And I was like, in this state, yeah, they're going to cover that. All right. Because it's not nearly as expensive as you think it is. And some politician will lose his nuts if he tries to cut that. And so I don't have a problem with it, but like with a private company, yeah, you got to be careful about that. And so Bloomberg does it that way. I mean, I've seen it. They're going to have to do it with Social Security again in the future. I mean, it's at 67 now. They're going to have to raise it to 70. So probably before I get it. So,
What are you going to do? People live longer.
I don't fucking care. I'll work till I'm 70. So, or if I'm rich enough where I don't have to, fuck it, then I don't need it. So, well, actually, I'm not even in Social Security. I'm in the state plan. Fine, whatever. So, but there's still a chunk of it that's kind of like, yeah, people live long. That's the whole thing in France. It's just still kind of going on, but it's not as bad as like. I can't get a good read on it, what's going on over there, because like the whole thing is all Ukraine stuff. So, and how that colors fucking everything. So
this was the dumbest take that I think I've seen in a long time. This was fucking fuck, I think this was my winner for just stupidest take I think I've seen in a long time. Was some asshole was like, well, you guys do understand that if Ukraine didn't stand up and fight, you realize they'd be in Poland right now, right?
Oh,
Like,
the Russians?
yeah.
Maybe.
Well,
Probably not, but maybe. But
well,
Poland would kick their ass.
well. Number
So,
one, they'd kick their ass, and they're
yeah.
like, and then they go further. I'm like, no, they wouldn't. Like,
No.
why, Patrick? Why not?
Germany.
Well, not
So,
just Germany.
Hungary,
What
mountains.
what happens if they start going into those countries?
Well, Poland is part of NATO. So,
That's exactly it. It's like
yeah.
that's why they wouldn't be in Poland.
So I have heard some good arguments that Putin probably would have tried something with like Latvia or Estonia. So if Ukraine had fallen that fast, even though they were in NATO. So it's just be like, well, how much are you guys really in NATO? Is NATO really serious about this, kind of thing? And I think they probably have a good argument to make at that point in time because if they say, oh, hey, man, are we sending the first cav over there because fucking Estonia? Probably not.
Theoretically, we're supposed to.
Theoretically, we're supposed to, but that would be truly testing, the confines of the fucking Article 5 in there, so,
Right.
which has rarely been tested. So, in fact, I don't know if it's ever been tested. So, I mean, we've had several times where we tried to go to war and NATO told us to fuck off.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah. Famously, that's why we had freedom fries for a little while.
Right.
French fries. So, there is an argument to be made of that. But yeah, I don't think he would have gone much further than Ukraine. Because he'd have his hands full trying to keep it like stitched together. Because there's a lot of people in Ukraine who fucking hate that guy, and they would fight him regardless of whether he actually won.
Yeah.
So he'd have a royal Vietnam on his hands right now if they had actually managed to take it over.
And they've done that. They've been through those
many times. So they got kicked out of Georgia.
Many as we have.
Yeah, and they do it to us, and we do it to them all the time. And so all these arguments. Well, it's escalating and everything. It's like, no, it's not. We've done this since fucking Soviet Union was a thing.
Right.
So I mean, you want to list off all the wars where we just traded sides, and who was actually fighting and who was like not helping the other side.
Right. I know.
It's like we've done this for generations, man. So we're quite good at it.
It's not new. It's just the first time that you've done this under your flag.
On the Russia flag, yeah. Well, no, that's not true because they did it in Chechnya, and Georgia.
Well,
so,
no.
Yeah.
That we've sort of like aided
a lot, just like kind of openly. But I mean, we've done that in the past. They've done it to us
in the same location.
In the same location.
Like Afghanistan.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. Well, actually, they were helping us in Afghanistan.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So, yeah,
they did it. We did it.
Yeah, but they were helping us when we were fighting in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So that was a little different. So, but no, man. So there's some people who have good takes on that thing, and there's some people who are just fucking.
They're garbage.
They're garbage. They're insane, and they want like either one of two things. Either want like pull everything out because it's going to go nuclear. It's not going to do that. Okay, or it's the flip.
It would have.
Huh?
It would have.
What?
Already.
Oh yeah, exactly. It would have gone that way already. So, and it's not because that's not what the war is about. So it's Putin, like we were talking about armor before, where you go into a riot to cause some trouble, and it's like, oh hey, I can use this as a fucking cover for my shit. That's exactly what he's doing here. So he's like, oh well, it's NATO all along, and so that's his coat that he puts on.
But he's the one over there saying it's like we're fighting white nationalism.
I know, but it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that he can't keep his country stitched together unless it's involved in some shit. So, yeah. So, and that's, I mean, so he's been involved in shit since he got in office. So, like, and that's what he does. So, you see these Russian generals fighting on fucking Telegram. That's just music to his ears, man. So, because that makes him the arbiter and the decider. It makes him more secure, and so that's why he's fucking doing it. So it's
again,
once you see that, you can't unsee it. It's kind of like, oh, got it.
That makes perfect sense in terms of all my Ukrainian and Russian students who the older ones are like, Jeffrey, it's just how they do things.
Right? Yeah.
It's like, but it's just how they do it. That's why I live here.
Right. Yeah. So I have to put up with this bullshit.
This is not the first time this has happened. This is not the first time it's happened in my fucking lifetime.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. So I actually had a guy who kind of broke all that down to me and explained to me, like, okay, so these are the factions that you have in Russia. Okay, these guys don't like these guys. These guys don't like these guys. None of the guys like this guy.
And these guys are this guy.
And these guys are this guy, but all of
They
these
live
guys,
here.
all of these guys have a buddy on top. So once you realize that actually starting shit like this makes him more secure in his job, then you start to see what's going on. It's like, oh, that makes perfect fucking sense. That's why he put a million fucking landmines in that entire place, you know? Because he's like, yeah, come get me now, bro. So, you know, so it's going to take you years to clean all this shit out, which just makes me more secure at home for years. So it's like, that's a really cynical, very Russian thing to do. So, it all makes perfect sense now, man. So,
Yeah. Again,
I get a little bit depressed when I see people. It's like, we just need to negotiate. It's like nobody wants to do it. So it's like, it's just get off it that this thing's going to be over next week and you can go back to your 2019 life. It's not going to happen. So, you know, it's just going to go on and on and on and on. So, because these are two big countries, this is like the rest of the United States attacking Texas. It would take more than a year. And they got a lot of guns there.
I'm so sick of that, you know, and I used to believe that, I used to honestly believe it still, and I still do, that, yeah, because this is this country, I do believe that, the greatest deterrent against our own government is basically allowing citizens to have military commensurate to the, to the government.
Mm-hmm.
As psychopathic as that is, where like I played GTA 5, I know that there's a reason that you can't let regular people have rockets, but in terms of because you know all it takes is like one dude out there like, I'm gonna cause mayhem. I'm gonna climb up to the top of this
Right,
roof.
yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm gonna go
There's
blow up.
Homer Simpson. There's Homer Simpson.
I'm gonna go
loading fucking RPG rounds.
I'm gonna go blow up traffic, right? So yeah, I understand the dangers, but there's a part of me that says, all right, that is a deterrent, and I can believe in that. But I can also say that even without it, Jesus Christ, with what we have here, a government seizure and takeover of the common citizen would be the biggest fucking nightmare.
It'd be awful. It can't happen. So, you know, well, I mean, you can't never say no. You can never say never on it, but just the idea of the whole they'll come take your guns, it's ridiculous. It was like we would chew through their agents in a day.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
This is
So
old knowledge. You cannot occupy a city with stealth bombers. You can't like. I mean, that's the thing is like. All right, I get it. I understand it would be an uphill battle, but you got to remember, it's like the common citizen is not the offensive force. You know.
Well, and on top of it, we don't have the kind of government. Our military isn't set up to do that. If you told someone flying an Apache helicopter to mow down a fucking crowd of like his fellow citizens, there's a very good chance he decides to fuck off. He says, "No, it's not. It's busted. It doesn't work." You know, or lands the thing and gives it to the crowd. There's a very good chance of that.
I'm on your side now.
Well, that's what happens when you have an all-volunteer force in the military. I mean, if you turn around and if you like draftees, like in Russia, where it's like, hey, you know, your contract is 6 months long, survive for 6 months and you're a free man, they'll pull that trigger. So, you know, yeah, exactly. You know, well, you don't have to come back. So it's kind of a thing,
right?
You know, but if you try to do that with the United States, you know. Like any local law enforcement, I mean, you take a look at it and someone tried to occupy the city of Chicago. Okay, you'd have to fight the Chicago Police Department.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
you'd be dealing with basically I can't tell you the full numbers on this, but I'm pretty sure they'd be as big, if not bigger, than any branch of the military.
Well, I don't know about
how many cops there are. If they were
just police?
Yes.
Well, yeah. So like the NYPD is like twice the size of the fucking 101st Airborne. So you know, you're not gonna. It's not a. It makes like some of the real doomerism out there just ridiculous. It's like knock that off. All right. So we got other problems that you should be spending your time on. So rather than running this like kind of fucking quasi fantasy where you get to play GTA 5.
I'm sorry to put
in
that
real life. No,
but I
man,
mean,
you nailed it,
know
bro.
it. You know that
nailed it.
there's the.
Yeah, you nailed it. So like already, man, you're starting to hear that shit about the election coming around on that stuff, and it's just like fucking knock it off. All right. So it's gonna be fine. So you know,
I have
they're not gonna come take your guns so that you vote
no,
Democratic.
no, no,
Come
no,
on,
no. I
man.
don't think they're taking. They're
So
coming for the guns. I will say that the current. I'm sorry, man. There is no
God
fucking.
save the Queen.
Jesus Christ. There, but no,
I
no,
don't have my Joe Biden voice on. God save the Queen.
there is no fucking version of this where this prosecution is not politically motivated.
Oh, the one in.
This is disgusting.
Yeah. No, it's clearly politically motivated. So the question is, it's like, so is it federal prosecution, state prosecution? Which one actually matters in this case? I don't know. So because the state court, it's got to go in front of a jury in Florida.
Right.
You're gonna fucking lose.
Yeah.
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 So
But no, 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 no.
yeah,
But
why are we doing this?
well,
So
again, that's the problem here. Is this is clearly election interference.
sure, but I don't.
We don't do this.
Yeah, but I don't.
Going after your number one
Yeah.
political adversary.
So
Is
I'm still not
so
convinced that Joe Biden's
fucking
going to make
crap.
it. So, that far. And then, the question is what happens to the Trump prosecution if he steps down? If the answer is nothing, then obviously it's party based, not necessarily Joe based. So, um, but again, I don't understand. So it's like, why are you doing it? You got to go before a Florida jury, or if it's federal and you try and move it out of like Florida, then you might have a chance. But it's obvious if we're going to move this to the Southern District, Manhattan. It's like, okay, well, there's an instantaneous appeal right there, And then on top of it, I can't find whether or not this actually prevents him from running. I don't think it does.
Well, it's not necessarily a question of whether it prevents him from running. It's that there are 2 points to this. They say that number one, it prevents him from campaigning.
I doubt that.
Well, so there's you're saying you doubt that. The thing is that it limits his movement.
Well, how so? Do they say you can't leave the state of Florida?
This is part of it.
Have they done that already? Yeah. Okay.
Hang tight on this.
Yeah, I will.
We'll see where this all
We'll see
goes.
where this goes.
Because that's all talk right now. Right?
Yeah.
The people are saying what are the implications? So there is.
Because I mean, even if he got convicted in Florida, couldn't Ron DeSantis just pardon him? See, I don't understand. Yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see how this one goes out. So
it's dog shit. Okay, I'm just gonna
Right.
I'm gonna put it out there. This indictment on these documents is so fucking ridiculous.
yeah,
Like
it seems like
it's like unless you're the only version of this where I'd be like sort of okay with it, but not because this is so fucking dumb. Is if basically the move was like, well, actually, what we're doing is we're sweeping up all living presidents.
yeah. Okay.
If you were alive, we're prosecuting all of you. I'm like, all right, well, I know that you're trying to get this guy, but at the same time, if you said like, all right, well, then we have to get Bill Clinton, we have to get, everybody that was alive. This is you have to go round up Al Gore because I guarantee you he had some in his fucking house.
Yeah. Go grab Mike Pence while you're at it.
Yes, you know what?
Well, he actually gave his back though.
It's like none of this was for you in the first place. It's
No,
like,
not really.
This doesn't have your name on it. Why do you have this? It's like nobody gave you anything.
I don't mind Mike Pence.
No, he's
like
just
more harmless now
just
than
a
he used to
harmless
be,
like
yeah.
doofus.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's like if you came for them all and said like, look, you all violated this. We let it slide for too long. Like, this is convenient timing, but at least it's an equal application of law. Same thing goes with fucking like, how can you do that to this guy and say like, yeah, but we found all these fucking documents at Biden's house.
Yeah.
And like, how the fuck can you turn around and say like, well, we're only going to prosecute?
Well, who's actually responsible for that? So, yeah, who's actually responsible for prosecuting that? That's my question.
That's the problem. Is like this.
Well, Merrick Garland can't tell this Florida guy what to do. He can't. So the Florida guy can do whatever the fuck he wants to do.
But he could have said like, I'm not prosecuting this.
Maybe he is. Maybe he wants to prosecute it. I don't fucking know. So who knows? So that's why I'm curious whether it's a federal or state thing. Because if it's a state thing, yeah, Merrick Garland can't tell that dude to do shit. So
it's rough, man.
Yeah, well, the same thing is true with like. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the Hunter Biden thing, man. So that is getting worse every time something comes out about it. So
they're tracking down the money, man.
Yeah, they're gonna get him. So on that, and then I don't think Joe's actually gonna. I think he's gonna duck out still. I'm gonna still stand by that prediction. So because if he does anything, he'll do it to protect his boy.
Well, I think that protecting his boy is protecting himself.
Probably.
Yeah. Everything about this stinks so badly. Like,
But see, the funny thing is that Joe never really gave that much money to his boy. So
no, but he got money as a result of his.
I'm curious who got more. So I'm really curious who got more. So I think his boy has stuck his fingers in quite a few cookie jars because his dad. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a crack in the foundation that's getting pretty fucking big. So I don't think he's actually going to make it a year and a half.
And the fact that, again, when it comes down to like, so all this is true, and the fact that the fucking alphabet agencies went out there and said like, oh, this is disinformation. Like, how the fuck are you in any position to say that?
Yeah, I think they've been pretty well
That is bullshit.
Yeah, no, I'd be curious to kind of want to know what's going on internally within some of those things.
Fucking ridiculous. That is like totally against the interests of justice, and that, like, again, to me, like, that's fucking with the election.
Possibly.
Like, this is ridiculous. This is the part where, like, man, I know that
they just don't want Trump in there. That's all they want.
I get it.
They just don't want him in there.
That's bad.
I get that. But I think that they've been disciplined quite a bit in the last year or so. So
shit needs to get flushed.
Well, how much? I mean, 100%. I mean, I don't want the guys who are fucking investigating, fucking cartels to lose their jobs. I don't want the guys who are fucking investigating tax frauds to lose their jobs. If there's a couple guys at the top, yeah, fucking clean them out. They need to be disciplined if they're actually meddling with elections and things like that. But I mean, the FBI
needs to be in jail.
The FBI, okay, if they did something illegal, prosecute them, sure. So but at the same point in time, I mean, I don't think that the FBI is crooked. I think there might be crooked guys in the FBI. Find them out, get them rid of them.
No, I understand that. Yeah. I obviously, at this point, I'm making the same argument that I would that people would say against police, and that's sort of ridiculous. Where it's like, well, actually, only 0.0012 you is involved in anything. It's like, well, we need to clean them all up.
Yeah.
Like, well, no, obviously not. But basically, like any leader that was even tangentially tied to the complicitness of this has got to go.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, prosecute him. Like, you are using the alphabet agencies of this country for political reasons, and that has got to be something that is punished to the fullest extent. He's like, we can't have this.
Is it just the FBI?
To my knowledge.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Homeland Security wasn't involved in it too.
That's the big, because it's the question of how tied in are you on these things. But yeah, that's the
Homeland Security's kind of muscled its way into that table, man. So
I feel like they shouldn't have.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like this was the stuff that was supposed to, like.
I don't think it should exist. That's the one.
Right.
The Department of Fatherland Security. I'm not a fan of it. You guys should be monitoring airports, and that's it, man. But you have a very, 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 very similar kind of mission set to another agency at one point in time that was built, to basically tamp down terrorism within the fatherland. Right. And basically didn't really have a position that was obvious to everybody, and so it kind of scraped one out for itself.
Dude, and when it's coming out, like, how many people were involved in the January 6th thing that were from the inside?
Yeah, but they were FBI guys.
They were FBI guys, but yeah, again, that's the same sort of this is fucked up.
Yeah, no, they should be prosecuted.
And when you're talking about Are
if they
there?
broke any laws. I don't know if they actually broke any laws. So, I don't know. Man, you can't touch anything on January 6th without getting absolutely flooded with horse shit. And so it's
I
so hard.
I totally agree. Look,
Yeah.
I totally understand that. And I know where I stand on it, just
Sure.
because I'm like the presence of you guys and the video footage of you people, like basically the whole thing is like we need to go in there and like the second I see that I'm like, you're done. You
Yeah.
guys instigated this.
Yeah.
Right?
So.
It's clear you instigated this, and every single one of you guys should be on the fucking chopping block.
Well,
But that's me.
Well, like, how much of it do they instigate? That's the question. So,
To me, any of it.
well, any of it's fine, and I mean, if you do any of that, then and if you establish like, okay, these guys instigated this and stuff like that, that doesn't let other fuckers off the hook. So who got in there and smashed windows and stuff?
I think it does.
Well, no, it doesn't, especially if they're on a different side of the building. If they did it of their own volition without an instigator there, that actually matters to me. So, it really does.
No, man. Again, this is the same. Look, we have rules in place in terms of like, all right, so if you're giving a speech, right? If you're giving a speech and you call out to like, if you say like, if you're saying like, this is, let's take like the George Floyd situation. If you're standing on a podium, right, and you're saying like, go out there and tear this city apart, you go to jail.
Right.
Right.
That guy should go to jail.
And that's the thing is, it doesn't necessarily excuse the people that participate.
That's my point.
However, okay, that's something that yes, if people rallied you into that, okay, I'm talking like, all right, well then your sentence in terms of your participation, I'm like, this should be taken into consideration, and
sure,
the jail sentences that you guys are sitting on is fucking absurd.
Well, I don't know the facts on all of those. I mean, my understanding is that a lot of people got out pretty early. So
and there's also people sitting there for like 12 years.
Yeah, I mean,
like, this is fucking like.
But
if your government coerced you into doing this, if they rallied you into doing this, and then said, "All right,"
I don't know, man. I mean, for me, there's still a personal level of responsibility where you cross that threshold. So
fair enough. Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, okay, so this thing has
people retarded, or
are people are
retarded? No, you're right. You're right.
So I mean, give them a little bit of credit on this one, and so. Okay, you get all ginned up because of a crowd and stuff like that, But if you're there for pure reasons, okay, okay, the election's fucked up, blah blah blah. I want to protest this and things like that. You know where that line is, okay. If you're there just because, yay, my guy, and I've got all the flags and shit, and like, oh, look at what we're doing now, then it's a team sport at that point in time, and so I think you kind of lose your privilege of actually carrying that, that level of responsibility, having that entire level of responsibility absolved because there were fucking government assholes there. So you still bear some responsibility for that.
All right, I can give you that, but I absolutely cannot, agree with the to me it's malicious prosecution.
Sure.
Because it's like, all right, so if I'm going to sit there and go to like a football game, and yes, I'm going to say like, yeah, all right, so there was a bad call, there was some name calling, and two crowds got into a fight. I'm like, all right,
through a battery.
I'm like, all right, so number one, you're adults, don't behave that way. But I can also understand, like, look, you guys swept up into it. It's not what you think it was.
Right.
You look at it and say, like, were people killed? It's like, well, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to take a look at the actual impact, in terms of, like, well, okay, so what was the damage that was actually done? Take that into consideration. I think a lot of the guys who got swept up into this probably did get, probably railroaded because you have some zealous prosecutors in certain states. And that's the other thing that I don't get is because there's so many states that are involved in the different types of prosecution here. You think it'd be like, doesn't DC have like a federal...
Great question. Yeah.
Exactly. So shouldn't these all be done under the same jurisdiction? Apparently not. So I don't know why that is. I could ask my lawyer why. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I know.
So I mean, but okay. So if it is malicious prosecution in that case, all right, we got a case. Let's set this up on appeal. Let's hear it out. All right. So I know you're not going to get your time back, but You know, if you're,
You can take that in the form of a few $1 million.
you can take that in the form of a couple $1,000,000, but if you're fucking zip tie guy, I want you to sit there for a bit and think about what you did. So, you know, fair enough.
Why don't we go ahead and stop?
That's probably a good place
Yeah,
to stop.
that's-
Yeah.
that's government.
Let's go back to the couches. All right, I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
Hitting the button.
All right.